Hello everyone and welcome back to the NBA Debates and Opinions YouTube channel. Today is not in podcast, it's just me, but it is a news/information styled video which will be coming more often. The podcast will still come, they will be normally weekly to every 2 weeks, depending on people's schedules. They're a bit harder to record, whereas videos like these are a lot easier for me to do. Now, today's video is going to be to do with NBA trades and trade rumours to do with that could happen on draft night or that could happen after free agency or before the start of next season. The first player we'll be looking at is my favourite player in the NBA, and his name is Lonzo Ball. Lonzo has been in the news quite a lot lately. He has been linked to the Chicago Bulls and the Phoenix Suns. He's also been linked to the Pelicans, obviously, and the Anthony Davis trades, but, everyone that has anything to do with Los Angeles has been involved in Anthony Davis trade room. The Bulls would have to give up the 7th pick, plus a player. Most speculated right now is Chris Dunn, but could be someone else. Most likely would have to be the 7th pick and Chris Dunn for Lonzo Ball. Now, this trade could happen. It's pretty simple. It could happen if the Lakers, if they want that 7th pick. Some people wonder why the Lakers would like to trade Lonzo Ball, as it is only his 2nd year in the NBA, but it is because the Pelicans have expressed to the Lakers that they would prefer picks rather than players. So if they can trade Zoe and get that 7th pick, that means they could offer Pelicans the deal somewhat of that looks like the 4th pick, the 7th pick, plus Brandon Ingram and maybe Kyle Kuzma for Anthony Davis. The reason they could do something like this is because that means the Pelicans would have the 1st pick, the 4th pick, and the 7th pick with Drew Holiday, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma. They'll have Zion Williamson with the 1st pick, depending on who they take with the 4th and 7th, that's undecided, but that would set the Pelicans' future up to look very bright. A 3-team trade could be on the card. There's one 3-team trade between the Lakers, Bulls, and the Pelicans, which this one, it's a little bit unrealistic in the terms that it couldn't happen right now because of salary terms, but it could happen after free agency when the Lakers have more tradable contracts. It looks there would have to be more players included in it, but the basis of the trade would be Lonzo Ball to the Chicago Bulls, Anthony Davis to the Los Angeles Lakers, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Chris Dunn, and the 4th pick and the 7th pick in the draft to the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, it would work out for all teams, as in the Pelicans are getting 3 young players plus 2 top lottery picks in the NBA draft this season. The Lakers are getting their guy in Anthony Davis, and the Chicago Bulls are getting their starting point guard for the future in Lonzo Ball, and all they have to give up is Chris Dunn and the 7th pick. Now, for them to get Lonzo Ball, I feel like it's a good fit for Chicago. Another 3-team trade could happen is a deal between the Bulls, the Lakers, and the Knicks. This deal would see Lonzo Ball yet again go to the Bulls, Chris Dunn and a future Bulls 2nd round pick to the New York Knicks, and Frank Ntilikina and the 7th pick in the draft to the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I'm yet sure on what the Lakers would do with Frank Ntilikina. I don't know, but like I said, it's mainly for that 7th pick, and that is what they care about right now. The Bulls said before the lottery that any pick that isn't top 2, therefore not getting Zion or Ja Morant, the Bulls said they're willing to trade that pick for Lonzo Ball. Now, they know that Chris Dunn isn't their point guard for the future, so they're looking for Lonzo Ball, as Lonzo has potential to be the star in this league. So they are looking to get him and get rid of Chris Dunn, although getting rid of Chris Dunn isn't crucial. They just want Lonzo Ball. The next player we talk about, I already have talked about him, but it's Anthony Davis. Now, the 2 teams likely to that everyone has been talking about lately for Anthony Davis is the Knicks and the Lakers. The Lakers have way more assets than the New York Knicks do, although in saying that, the New York Knicks do have the 3rd pick in the draft. The Knicks have the 3rd pick and the Lakers have the 4th pick. While it doesn't seem at first that big of a difference because it's only the 3rd and 4th pick, but if you look at the prospects, although there is some other good players in this draft, there is a bit of a drop-off from the 3rd to the 4th pick. After Zion Williamson, Ja Morant, and RJ Barrett, there is a bit of a drop-off. According to the Bleacher Report, the Pelicans are not interested in Kevin Knox, which is an interesting one. Believe it if you want. If the Pelicans aren't budging on Kevin Knox and they do not want him, it will be a lot harder for the Knicks to get this deal done. So it just depends on the Pelicans, what they value more. But the fact that the Knicks are in the Eastern Conference might push them up a little bit more, as the Pelicans are more inclined to do business with the team on the other side of the conference to send AD to the East. Similar to what the Spurs did with Kawhi Leonard last season, They weren't interested in doing a deal with the Western Conference team. They wanted to send Kawhi to the East, and that did happen. So look out for the New York Knicks. Even though the Lakers do have a lot more assets, the New York Knicks is definitely a big possibility. Mike Conley is a fantastic NBA player, borderline all-star, has been a borderline all-star for many seasons now. The Grizzlies are exploring trades for Mike Conley as they have the second pick in the draft, and they are set to draft Ja Morant with that second pick. The first team that I'll talk about is the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers are interested in trading for Mike Conley as they want to improve their starting point guard role. Also, another factor to that is the recent news of Tyreke Evans getting a 2-year ban from the NBA through something to do with drugs. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but he will not be playing for 2 seasons, so they are lacking at the guard position. Darren Collison is also a free agent this offseason. So it'll be interesting with what the Pacers can do. But in saying that, it makes a lot of sense for the Pacers, but for the Grizzlies side of things, I just don't know what sort of deal they will get done here because Mike Conley, like I said, is a borderline all-star caliber player. The Pacers wouldn't be able to do a trade now. It would have to be after free agency as they do not have tradable contract to get anything to work with the Memphis Grizzlies as they have the likes of Darren Collison, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Thaddeus Young, all free agents. So they might have to offer multiple future first-round picks. But if they do re-sign Bogdanovic, which a lot of people think they will do, they most likely won't want to give up Bogdanovic. I can't see the deal really happening and just getting the salaries to work. The next team, although, the Miami Heat, are expected to be one of the most aggressive teams in the Mike Conley situation. Miami have been looking for, I don't know if you call Mike Conley a star or not, but they've been looking for a caliber player like that for quite some time. To get this deal done, they'd probably have to give up Hassan Whiteside to match the contracts. And also an unprotected first-round pick. He has 2 years on his contract, but he has that player option that everyone expects him to take because of how much money he's on. $25 million is way too much for Hassan Whiteside, so he'll definitely take that money, as he'd be stupid not to, because he will get nothing near that if he declines it. So the fact that he has that player option, the only way for this trade to go down, like I said, would have to be after free agency if Hassan Whiteside accepts his player option, which most people expect him to do. The next team is one that I think is probably the most realistic, is the Utah Jazz. The Jazz are also very interested in Mike Conley as they want to pair someone with Donovan Mitchell. Ricky Rubio the last 2 seasons hasn't really panned out. They are looking to get a better player to pair with Donovan Mitchell, and Mike Conley is exactly that. The Utah Jazz are wanting to include Dante Exum in this trade, although Memphis are not that interested in bringing in Dante Exum. So for this to work, they're going to have to add in maybe a bit of a sweetener, maybe 2 picks just to sweeten that thing, because Memphis, they don't want Dante Exum, but the Jazz really want Dante Exum in this trade, and it's going to be hard to get the trade to work without Dante Exum in it. For this trade to work, deal would have to look something like Dante Exum, Jay Crowder, Joe Ingles, and a first-round pick, and like I said, maybe a second-round pick, depending on the whole Dante Exum situation. This one is definitely one of the most realistic ones, I think. I think it would be perfect for the Utah Jazz as they get their guy to pair with Donovan Mitchell. They do lose Joe Ingles, who's a very crucial key player to their situation in Utah, but Mike Conley is definitely the better player. Another one is the Pistons. They're also interested in Mike Conley. They don't have as many assets as some of the other teams. One thing that the Pistons do have is Luke Kennard, who is a promising young player. He had a good season this year. And the Pistons were also trying to trade for Mike Conley at the last trade deadline, but they weren't willing to include Luke Kennard in the deal, so that's why that trade never happened. But I feel like if the Pistons want to be aggressive and they want to keep Blake Griffin next season, as in the year after, when he's a free agent, they're going to have to do something. And I think Mike Conley might actually be that. For a deal to happen, it will have to include something like Reggie Jackson, John Lure, Luke Kennard, with an unprotected first. So it will be interesting to see if the Pistons are willing to do that. But like I said before, I feel like if the Pistons front office are serious, they will have to make a deal something like this. Fifth and final team in the Mike Conley mix is the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks, on paper, it looks like the best fit. If you put Mike Conley with Luka Doncic and a healthy Kristaps Porzingis, that is a very big three-headed monster, and I think they could compete in the playoffs in the Western Conference which is a big if, players like Kristaps Porzingis has to stay healthy, and also Mike Conley, who has had some injury issues in the past. For a deal like this to work, it would have to happen something along the lines of Tim Hardaway Jr., Courtney Lee, and an unprotected first-round pick. Whether Memphis are interested in that or not, I'm not too sure, but the Dallas Mavericks, one thing they do have going for them is they do have around $50 million in cap space, which is one of the largest in the NBA. So they can afford to bring on Mike Conley's $30 million contract. The fourth and final big story is Bradley Beal. And Bradley Beal is another player I'm really fond of. He's also one of my favorite players in the NBA. The thing with Bradley Beal is he's sort of like Klay Thompson, where you could put Bradley Beal almost on any team in the NBA and it seems like a good fit. I'm only going to be talking about two trades today, as there's not too many, confirmed sources brought out rumors of trades, and none of the other ones. I've seen a few other ones, but they're not too reliable, so I'm not going to talk about those. The Lakers, obviously, the first one. They have many assets that they can offer Washington and interest Washington into. I'm not going to go into the Lakers one, as I've spoke so much about the Lakers assets, and you know what they are. You know what the Lakers could offer, but it all depends on Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is the Lakers' number one priority right now, and I don't think they'll be interested in trading for Bradley Beal until they know what's going to happen with Anthony Davis, as some of the assets that would happen in the Bradley Beal trade would also be in the Anthony Davis trade. So I think if the Pelicans aren't budging on Anthony Davis, and it's definitely not going to happen, or if Anthony Davis goes to the Knicks, then that's when you'll see the Lakers be aggressive for Bradley Beal. Another trade for Bradley Beal, which I think is very interesting, and one of my favorites for the whole video, is the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Toronto Raptors is an interesting concept, because obviously the Wizards want Pascal Siakam in the trade, but obviously the Raptors are going to do everything they can to not do that, because I don't think they'll give up Pascal Siakam at all. So for this to go down without Pascal Siakam, it's going to be tough for the Raptors to work out a deal. But first and foremost, I only think this trade is valid if Kawhi Leonard stays. If Kawhi Leonard doesn't stay, I don't see any reason why they will do this trade. It will all depend on if Kawhi Leonard stays in Toronto. I'm saying that if Kawhi Leonard does stay in Toronto and they are not willing to give up Pascal Siakam, which I would assume they wouldn't be, the trade would have to look something like Serge Ibaka, OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, and the 2020 first-round pick, and would have to be another first-round pick, maybe even 3, depending on how Washington's stance is, if they're really not budging. As the 3 players I just said, Fred VanVleet has had a very, very poor postseason. OG Anunoby has really fallen off a cliff lately. Serge Ibaka is a solid NBA player, but he is no Bradley Beal. So I would see a minimum for 2 first-round picks. I could see maybe 3, depending on, like I said, Washington's stance. But it'll be a tough one for Washington to agree to. But if you're just looking on Toronto's side of things, if they come back next season with Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, and Pascal Siakam, that is definitely one of the favourites to come out of the East. Also, Kyle Lowry would probably have to be off the roster for this to happen, but that is also very highly rumoured right now, as it is anyway. That is the end of all of the big trades. I do have a couple of other news stories I will quickly touch on before I end this video. The New York Knicks, as I said before, are exploring Frank Ntilikina trades, and Frank Ntilikina does want to be off the Knicks. Dallas Mavericks were interested the year that Frank Ntilikina was drafted in 2017, but the Knicks approached the Dallas Mavericks and asked them if they wanted to do business with Frank Ntilikina, and the Mavericks, it was a straight up no. They do not want Frank Ntilikina, so I'm not sure who does want Frank Ntilikina, but I know that the Knicks are looking this offseason to get him off the books. Also, Frank Ntilikina has dropped his agent recently after he wanted to be traded last deadline, but the deal didn't happen. So he fired his agent and is looking for a new agent as we speak. The Lakers president, Rob Pelinka, says it's a critical decision what the Lakers do with their 4th pick. He said they could draft a prospect that isn't off the table as of yet, although it is more than likely that pick will be traded to get a star to pair with LeBron, and obviously right now the big name is Anthony Davis, but we will have to wait and see to what happens there. The Dallas Mavericks, Dwight Powell, is expected to decline his $10.2 million player option to explore free agency, so he won't be able to be used in that trade for Mike Conley. That's why he wasn't in there. At the start, they were reportedly going to include him, but after reports that he's declining that player option, that will no longer be able to happen. And the last story of the day, out of Philadelphia, James Ennis is reportedly going to turn down his $1.8 million player option and explore free agency. It's not without a doubt that he doesn't go back to Philadelphia, which is a big part. He could go back to Philadelphia, but it will just be after more money, as he's declining it because he does obviously feel like he's worth more than $1.8 million, And after the playoff he had, I feel like he is worth more than that. So if he does turn out to leave, Philadelphia will have to improve their depth, as he did help them off the bench this postseason. That is the end of this news video. Thank you everyone for listening. If you want more videos like this, make sure you like and comment what you want to see, what styled videos you want to see. If you want to come on the podcast, if you're interested in what topics to be on the podcast, all ears. So make sure you comment and let me know. Thank you everyone for listening. Like I said, take care. Have a good day.